Hello and welcome to the Next Level Supply Chain with GS1 US, a podcast in which we explore the mind-bending world of global supply chain, covering topics such as automation, innovation, unique identity, and more. I'm your co-host, Reed.
And I'm Liz.
And welcome to the show.
Hello, everyone. I hope that you're having a great day. Today, we have a special episode. We have 6 of our 7 Startup Lab Pitch Competition finalists on the show today. We talked to them about their experience with the Startup Lab Pitch Competition, being at GS1 Connect, which is our annual members users conference, and their solutions and how they got started. These are very exciting conversations. They're quick, to the point, and there's a lot to unpack. You want to listen to this whole episode as we reveal the winner at the end. You'll hear inspiring thinkers talk about digital product passports, using location data to engage with consumers, changing how we trace fresh produce with edible barcodes, and reimagining hydration while making a positive impact on our planet. So without any further ado, let's jump into the episode. Philippe, thank you so much for being on the podcast with us today. We were talking last night. You're coming all the way from the south of France. True. It's been quite a trip for you. How did you find out about GS1 Startup Lab Pitch Competition?
It was quite amazing. We were at the CES at Las Vegas.
CES Las Vegas?
Yes, we were presenting Sorga technology, and we have seen the GS1 staff coming to us and quite interested in our innovation. Bob said, "Have you heard about the Startup Lab competition?" And I never heard about it before in France. And he explained me everything you propose, and it was very attractive. And so when I flew back in France, I sent in my application and crossed my fingers. And after 2 or 3 months, I had a positive answer. Very exciting.
That is really cool to hear. I know I did not go to CES this year, but I've been in the last few years, outside of COVID, of course, but we always are looking for folks. And I didn't realize that that's how you came to us this year. That's fantastic. And we appreciate the effort that you've put into this. I mean, it's a cost to travel. What's been your realization? You had expectations coming into it, and now you're here. Share with us the difference of the two.
Yeah, because I had very few idea of what could be this event. Being here, I realized why it's GS1 Connect. Everything is in the title. It's about connections between solution providers, between GS1 staff, and you may think it's ridiculous, but I was surprised by the configuration of the room because we share even breakfast.
Yeah.
We share lunch. We are close to booths, and there is no rupture between conferences and then you move to another room for lunch, dinner, or what. Everything's in the same space, so it's made for connections. And everything is think for people interacting, and I find it very interesting.
I'm so glad to hear you say that. I really want to take this moment to just tip our hats to our Connect team and our staff that put all the effort into organizing all this. A couple years ago, we were looking at this layout, and I saw it, and I just kind of kept my thoughts to myself, and I'm like, fingers crossed that it really works, because just to kind of give everyone a visual, you walk into this general space, the exhibit hall, and the exhibitors are in the middle, and you have presenters on the outsides in the corners, and they're all speaking, and I'm like, aren't they going to over... I mean, we're in the middle of it right now, right?
And you may think it will be very noisy because
exactly.
5 theaters at the same time, and it's very well organized, and everyone has earphones, so...
What's great is you're not, let me run to this room or run to that room. We're all in the same spot. You get to mingle. The networking is a lot more organic and efficient, if you will. And as you said, all of a sudden, food starts showing up, and there's tables, and you sit down and you eat, and then you sit down and you talk.
Everything's meant for connections.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad to hear that. All right, so now let's just talk a little bit about your solution, Sorga technology. Tell us a little bit about it.
It's a solution for digital product passport using GS1 barcodes and 2D barcodes, so the digital links. We are a mission-driven company, so very sensitive to the way we do our work. Initially, for more than 15 years, we help brands to innovate through digital, and we help them to not produce or consume more, but better. And all these clients, retailer brands in fashion, beauty, wine and spirit, who are telling us, and we have seen them doing great efforts in manufacturing, in sourcing, in transportation, in eco-conception. And in the store, they were next to other players, competitors who do not these efforts. And of course, to not miss any sales, they say they are bio, they are vegan, 100% natural, everything the clients wants to hear. We decided to do some research to help them to find trust again, because 90% of people do not trust brands anymore. For decades, they say they were the best, they were the most beautiful and useful and so on. And of course, you know that they are not 100% superior and beautiful and best and so on. So we worked on the blockchain process, not about the cryptography or everything you heard about the speculation and so on, but there's a process as a technique like email or SMS, just the way that you can have an information that no one can touch, it's inviolable, the way that you can verify who is the author of this information, the different steps that the information moved in the time. And we worked on the solution to avoid burning the planet, trying to say that these brands are doing their best to save the planet. So our main focus was impact. Environmental impact. And that's how we succeed to have a solution today to propose to our clients, the brands, which is carbon neutral, and using the most reliable blockchain, the Bitcoin.
And you mentioned digital product passports. And I'm not sure in the United States if a lot of our audience, I know half of them are aware, but in Europe, it's a regulation or it was a past...
It's a big deal.
Just share a little bit more of what's going on over there in Europe, because I tell people, if you're going to sell something and it's going to go overseas, you need to know what's going on over there.
Sure.
Right? And it's not to say that it's going to come here, but good things that work tend to go global.
I'm afraid I would say it's a good thing. Prepare to have a DDP.
DDP, Digital Product Passport.
Passport also for some major industries here in the US. It's all about the Green Deal 2019 in the EU. The fact is, in Europe, we want to reduce impact, energy, and so on, because we are depending on many other countries. And so the EU wanted that the consumers are able to last the product longer, to compare and to know a little bit more about the impact of the product, how much energy, if your t-shirt has made 10 times planet around to land in your store. And the third major topic is the circularity. What do I do when I don't want this t-shirt anymore?
Can I recycle it? Where can I recycle it?
Can I give it?
Can I sell it?
Can I resell? Can I... Yeah, all solutions existing to stop fast consumption. Fast fashion, but also in the beauty industry we are very close to. They are producing over 125 billion plastic items per year. L'Oréal, my former house, it's 7 billion 200 millions of units per year. Where do these old products go? Can we imagine circularity of them and to reuse or to reduce the impact of them?
Right. Repurpose it.
Yeah. So from 2019, several things have been made. And the digital product passport is product information that must be on the product to inform the consumer of these three topics: impact, durability, recyclability. And as we have as many countries as languages in Europe, you can't have a label this size. So of course the QR code is the best way to jump into this information. And at the same time, GS1 is preparing this great transformation to 2D barcode. So we thought it was the best time to provide a secure DPP with inviolable proof, and that fits the 2D GS1 barcode.
Right, in leveraging blockchain. But, you know, as came up in the conversations yesterday, you're processing it one time for the verification and then locking that in, right? So that when a person is out at a store and the QR code is on the product, they scan it, they instantaneously get that information. This is where it came from. This is, you know...
With a very attractive information, you have interactive maps, you have videos, and it's well structured in a way that it's not a copy of the website, because all websites are different. So our role is also, we are not just one, but to limit and to educate brands to be focused on the customer's expectation with short text, with visual information. We have some of them, they have great CSR report, 20, 40 pages. We say, okay, put a link to it. If they want to go further, they will. But
don't show it.
Yeah. That's for the official story of Sorga. There's an unofficial story. I have two sons. One is fond of technology, and the other one is a teenager, as many teenagers fond of brands and so on. 7, 8 years ago, the oldest told me, Dad, could you bring back to home the old PCs you have at work. I would like to do some Bitcoin mintage downstairs.
So mining.
Mining, yeah. What is mining? What is Bitcoin? What is blockchain? And I was on digital marketing, but for me, Bitcoin and the blockchain was not so useful for retail brands and too far from my daily life.
Yep.
And the second son was fond of shoes. And on StockX, you have this exchange of shoes. And he came once and said, you know what, on Alibaba, you can find some fake QR codes of StockX. Yeah, what is StockX? Explain me StockX. And then we had this discussion about how do you know the product is real or fake. And if the tag is fake, then you're sure the product is fake. Maybe the product is fake, but the tag is real. And at the end, today when I show a Sorga passport to them and to my mom, I have this vision of the two generations. My mom says, I'm glad that you brought all this invisible information to the consumer, because when I go shopping, I don't have any idea of where it's made, who it's made. And I understand better the price also of the product. And she's fine with it. And my son said, okay, it's a mini website. I can do the same on WordPress. There's nothing impressive what you made. And for them, we did all this detail further to go to the source of information. On a Sorga passport, if you want to go to know more and to be sure that the evidence is true, inviolable, verifiable evidence, you can go further, and we go to the blockchain signature and the very source of the evidence. So for my sons, they are more curious. And the new generation, they don't trust brands anymore. For them, they are just lying and taking money from where they want. And thanks to Sorga passports, now my son says, okay, in your new stuff, we can see, we can check, and we can trust.
Wow.
It's not the same use from my mother and my sons.
But that, I love the explanation there of we have an older generation and a younger generation, and they have different needs and different wants, but the same solution is providing to both.
That's
and providing the flexibility, but the security and the verifiable, all the way to however far you want to take it.
That's what we say. Sorga means the source. In southern France, yeah.
That's right.
If you go down in the Provence, south of France, you have many places with Sorg at the end of the name of the cities. Cities where sources are around. And the same word in Italian means that reveals, and Sorga in Indonesian means the paradise. So the source that reveals the paradise is trust, and Sorga is the source that reveals the trust.
That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Well, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. I would like to know, just changing topics totally, we always ask everyone, what's your favorite technology you're using today? Either at work or at home, just something you're like, I can't live without this right now.
Email, of course, for business. And I would say LinkedIn is quite interesting.
Yeah. LinkedIn. I joined LinkedIn in 2006. Yeah.
I'm not so active on Instagram. And Twitter and Instagram, it's my point of view, of course, but I think my private life is not so exciting to show to all the world. It's a kind of daily press release of your life. And if you are famous or if you are very...
different.
It's different. But at my stage, I remain...
LinkedIn.
I inform my friends and family without a public network.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, listen, congratulations again for making it to the 7 finalists and for spending the time with us. And we wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you, Reid. And thank you to the GS1 team.
Well, Ossie, here we are. We're on the podcast. We were doing the Startup Lab pitch competition. For our audience, just give us a little high-level background on PICKL. What you do, how you kind of came about with the idea.
I am from Long Beach, California. Interesting, when you have a journey, you have, let's just say, a job. I used to be a broker for a lot of brands, number one selling brands that you see at Target, Whole Foods. I was in grocery stores all day. I was in parking lots in my car, and I just watched consumers everywhere interacting with people and products. Mm-hmm. And I just thought to myself, how can I get all these people that I see everywhere to get them to do what I need to do, but also engage with all these brands and products all at once?
Right, so both sides.
Both sides. And I was thinking to myself, and I would go to these conventions and say, I want to find a way to help everybody's entire auditorium, not just one brand. Mm-hmm. And so I taught myself how to build the initial prototype. The idea was for a bat signal, and I just wanted to throw out a bat signal and have somebody kind of engage with it somehow, get me what I need, gather some data, do some sort of activity. I built a prototype. It wasn't called PICKL at first, but PICKL has a very, I did a lot of work scientifically on what I wanted the name to be. Mm-hmm. Anyway, another story.
But tell us about that, because a lot of people, I'm like, sometimes I look at it, I'm like, oh, he's in the middle.
Oh, yeah, like you're caught in a pickle or something. Right. And that's not what it is. And then a lot of people talk about this PICKL cartoon, Rick and Morty or something.
Yeah, Rick and Morty.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, it's not that. And it has nothing to do with pickles that you eat. But I took the word pick because they say flows with 1,000 words.
Right, pick.
And then I'd won about 20 awards helping brands grow. And they kept saying, how do we bottle you? How do we clone you? And so I took the word picture and clone. And I spelled clone wrong and I got pickle. And I wanted it to be like 1 or 2 syllables and then a hard sound, not a soft sound, because words are a bit more memorable with personality. But what we do is we connect brands with people. Because I think that we're all human beings before we're consumers, right? And if you think about it that way, it's a different engagement. But we connect with them one-on-one in real time, and then the brands can get real-time qualitative data from those consumers. And the people, think of it as like Pokemon Go, it is from PICKL activities.
Got it.
And so we can drive people into any geolocated place with an address, like an event space like here, a grocery store, a museum, a restaurant, to do fun activities with purchase and intent and velocity. And then we can also engage people no matter where they are, at the park with their kids, at the gym, at school. So
yeah. I want to come back to that location bit.
Sure.
But congratulations, you were one of the 7 finalists for our 2023 Startup Lab Pitch Competition. How did you find out about GS1 Startup Lab Pitch Competition?
So we were in the Walton Family Sponsored Technology Program out in Bentonville, Arkansas.
Okay.
And one of my closest advisors and friends from the program, Myron Burke, actually is in the JS1 community.
Yeah.
And he's involved in a lot
Myron
of ways.
well.
Yeah. And he's like, hey, you should check out this thing, because Myron's mind like can go up there really fast.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see that perspective. And he's like, you should look at this community because it's interesting for PICKL and where you're going.
Yeah.
Right? And so I submitted and we became a finalist.
Yeah.
And it's way more than I thought it was going to be. I will say that for sure.
So talk a little bit about that. What were your expectations coming in, and then what was your realization as being a part of it?
Well, I think from the outskirts, I'm almost a consumer mindset, right? Like, oh, it's barcodes, it's QR codes, it's very diagnostic and tools and tracking and tracing, and what's this crowd going to be like, and what's the engagement level going to be like?
Yeah.
But you come here and it's almost, I was telling someone, it's like being on a cruise ship. Because, on a cruise ship, whether it's a 2 or 3 or 7 day cruise, you start to see people over and over and over again. You start to make different relationships and connections.
It's a great analogy.
And so because of the size of it, actually the power comes in today, the Wednesday.
Right. The third day.
The third day till the end of the day, and even maybe tomorrow morning as well. But like, that's the part of the power of a small community, I think. Yeah. That's really engaged and wanting to support each other and lift, I think. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. We are all, after COVID and being virtual and remote and all that, hybrid in-person, being in person is not easy. It's tiring, it's expensive, but I have always said the meeting doesn't happen in the meeting.
Right.
The meeting happens before and after the meeting. And I was told that when I was young, and I was like, what the heck are they talking? But it's the conversation walking into the room. It's the conversation walking out of the room. It's the dinner or the lunch or the breakfast that you share, or it's the, hey, we just both sat in the same session. What did you think? And you start to bond a bit more.
I agree, yeah.
That's great. So let's get back to location, because a lot of folks don't realize that GS1 has a global location number. And you actually get one, and when you purchase a prefix which identifies your company, and then you can create as many UPCs from that prefix that you sign up for, but you can then create GLNs. And so we've been having these discussions about dynamic locations. And so you talked about in your presentation, like, you have an address. It's a place you always go to, and you can sell things out. But pop-up stores, pop-up retail, or even what I call like non-pop-up pop-ups. It's like all of a sudden there's a moment and it's like, hey, we need more water here, or we need more food here, or we need T-shirts, whatever it is. It seems like that's what you're involved with too, because of the dynamic location aspect of your gamification.
Yeah, we did a test for the Rewired Festival in Arkansas, and it was how can we actually get people at an event, a convention, to go to the panel discussions. So you get dings based on your geolocation, and I can actually get you to go to these events, sit down, engage, give feedback, and then again and move on.
Can you do that in the inverse with like, hey, we're at an event, we want you to go to this store, or
correct?
Because I've seen others. my wife had an app. We used to be driving down the highway, going to see, our in-laws and such, and all of a sudden it's like ding, ding, ding. She's like, oh, don't worry, it's just a sale, and if I go in there, I'll get 10% off. And
right.
So is it similar?
Or? So we have people, for example, like you and your wife are going out to dinner, and she'll actually say, hey, Reed, instead of going to that restaurant, can we go to that restaurant because there's a PICKL on the way, and we can make a quick $5 or $10 and then go to dinner. So now I'm actually diverting traffic between places.
Interesting.
And then you travel. So let's say you live in New York, and now you're here in Denver. Well, when you land in Denver, ding, ding, there's a Walmart nearby, there's a Puma store, there's this other things to engage with. And so now you can start engaging people no matter where they go as they travel.
Interesting.
If they're visiting family, they can take family with them and do these fun activities. And so I think it's really all about the relationship that you're keeping with these people, which are consumers, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be, I think, a one-dimensional engagement and then we lose them, right? But how can we keep it going? And then I think that you mentioned the invert is how can I get the consumer to speak back to you at the brand whenever they want to?
Yeah, and to get, you talked about this true unbiased feedback.
Right.
And to be able to share. It's funny because I had a meeting this morning and I'm like, all right, it's just the two of us or one-on-one here. Tell me where we're going wrong. Tell me, and you want that feedback, but they're afraid to give that in a bigger public setting. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Well, listen, I want to congratulate you again, being one of the 7 finalists. This is a record year of applications. So, just being here is a feat in itself. We always close our show with wanting to know what's your favorite technology. It's just something, it can be a personal technology you use or your business technology, whatever, but what's something that's you just can't live without today?
This might sound funny, but I think noise canceling headphones.
I love them. Can't fly without them.
Yeah, and I think it's really fascinating to walk around and be able to silence the areas that you're in and really focus on sound. And now that they've moved into little pieces, I was actually debating this technology because I was like, wait a second. The technology is in a big it's in a big headset. How is that going to do the same as in a little thing in my ear? But actually, I think I've understand that it's actually even probably better when it's a little one in your ear because it's more protective and more sound.
I, by luck, got them 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Just by luck. I was at an airport. I have not been able to take them off since.
Yeah.
I wear them all the time. When I get on the plane, I wear them. When I mow the lawn, I wear them. When I'm in my office working and somebody comes home, I put them on. Sometimes it's just for noise cancellation. Sometimes it's music. Sometimes it's podcasts. Sometimes it's movies. It really lets you drift away into a different space.
Yeah. And I love researching the brands and the technology and what they're doing and,
very cool.
And all that. But thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's been amazing meeting great companies and people here. So
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next on the show, we have Dr. Taraka Ramji Moturu. And you go by Ramji.
Yes.
And you're with Peelon. And I want to say first and foremost, congratulations on making it to the 7 finalists for the Startup Lab pitch competition.
Thanks, Rick.
I've been very impressed by your solution. And why don't you just take a minute at a high level, just kind of share with our audience what you do.
Absolutely. So our solution is Peelon. So Peelon is a biodegradable packaging solution. So that creates the microclimate on the fresh produce when it's packed. And it increases the shelf life up to 3 times. So the advantage here with the growers or with the distributors or exporters, so they could transport for longer distances and any hurdles with the supply chain, with change of temperatures, with change of humidity, and this could all be solved by our single solution. And the best part is it's easy to adopt because we're just simply replacing the single-use plastics with our solution, which is completely biodegradable and home compostable. So you simply can throw it in any landfills or in dustbins.
I love this for 2 reasons. The first is food waste is a big problem globally.
$2.6 trillion.
Yes, and it's
every year.
Every year, the percentage of food waste grows. The other aspect is pollution via plastics. Plastics are in our lives. We know it. They have been for a long time. We benefit from them. They're not going away, but we could reduce and alter some of the uses. And you're doing both here. How did you come up with this? Where was the start?
Well, I would say it's hard to say eureka moment, but yet it's a lot of failures and we have been testing trials and we're trying to understand the market because as a scientist, I'm more confined to the lab. At the same time, we were not aware completely how the market works. So we initially started with the edible coating. So given my plant biology background, so myself and the CTO, the co-founder, so we had both plant biology backgrounds and microbiology and food preservation. So this is something which we had a background. This all started during the COVID. We had plenty of time, like every other person in the world. So this is one of the problems, why not solving it? So we started initially with edible coating technology. So where we were able to coat the fresh produce, like mainly the stone fruits, like with the hard shell, avocados, apples, or citrus fruits. And we were able to increase the shelf life up to like 30 days.
Wow.
Which we were like, wow.
By not doing anything except
it just
coating
kept at room temperature, high humidity. I mean, it was tested in India, like the coastal areas.
Yep.
And that really amazed us. It's like, wow, we never thought about it.
Right.
And then we went, okay, let's try with the market itself. Let's talk to the people who are exporting. Let's try to understand it. We found other co-founder from south of Florida. So he really immediately joined. He was excited with our technology and he joined the company as well. So we said like, okay, let's test with the market. We went back and forth with the different retailers, small retailers, exotic fruit distributors. So they were excited, equally excited. Okay, this is increasing. We wanted just 1 day extra, and then it's giving us 1 week. This is already like too much for us. They were so excited, but then they also realized it's kind of hard for them to spray like each and every fruit, and it's some extra investment they had to put in. So we went back again. So as a scientist, we love problems.
Sure.
So what shall we do? What's the easy way? We noticed that it's a lot of plastic. Then with other co-founders, like, why not integrating it into the plastic itself? And at the same time, why not using the bioplastics, biodegradable plastics? So that we solve two problems with a single arrow. So then that's where we started to work on it. Within 3 months, we were able to find a solution.
So a little visualization here. I have a box of produce and I'm putting Peelon over the whole box.
Yes, you can simply wrap it.
What about if I had a head of lettuce? Can I just wrap the lettuce in that as well?
Yes. So it's a flexible packaging. So wherever you can imagine plastics, you can replace it with ours.
That is very interesting and encouraging as well, that there's not a lot of change or difference that you have to do. We can just start incorporating a new material. And I love the fact that it's biodegradable. And I have to say this. I want to thank you and your team and your staff, because we need more people like you in the world that are working to solve these problems. I always say we all have talents. We all have to bring all of our talents to the world. And someone that's strong can lift things. Someone that's, small can get into other areas that a bigger person can't. But we need this and this biodegradable, because plastics are good, but too much plastic, it's into our food supply now.
It's already in our lifestyle everywhere. So that's something which we never realized.
Right.
And then we already see now everywhere, even in the womb. I mean, can you imagine?
No,
that's a terrible thing which you cannot imagine to have.
Yeah. How did you find out about the GS1 US Startup Lab pitch competition?
It was really a random one, honestly. So it was one of the co-founders from Florida. So he saw the GS1 Connect, and then he applied for it. And then I got interested really.
So he saw it online?
Yeah. And then he really thought like supply chain, something which could be, it's an upstream, like which we are constantly been working with. It has synergies. We have so many synergies with other stuff. So that's one of the reasons why he applied to it. And I got more interested after when we are selected, honestly.
Yeah. And that's actually really the whole part of this. Why we started the Startup Lab pitch competition was twofold. One, we wanted our established members to realize that there are a lot of groundbreaking technologies out there and solutions, and there might be some partnership opportunities, right? And then two, we wanted the startup environment to realize that there are some really strong standards that they could leverage to help them scale faster and get quicker adoption. And we do a lot of work within food. We have so much going on with the Food Safety Modernization Act, with grocery, food service, and those are two. If you're an outsider, you think, they're kind of one and the same. They're very, very different. Food service and grocery, completely different environments. And until you kind of go behind the curtain, you don't realize, and then you realize, now I get it. And COVID has helped us all realize maybe we need to rethink some of those things. Not all of them, but some of those things
I would say this is an opportunity where we can really rebuild and rethink most of the stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, I'd like to know, what's your favorite technology that you're using today? Just personal, professional, could be something at work, It could be just something, it's your favorite tech that you're using right now and you just can't live without it.
Hard to say, but at the same time, it's. I started to use ChatGPT. I think that's like all-time favorite for like most of the people around us. So,
What are you using ChatGPT for, if you don't mind me asking?
So it's a mix and match, I would say, for the general sense and also for knowledge basis, to understand like if I really want to brainstorm with something, like ChatGPT is really like good to start with. Like It doesn't give you accurate information, but at the same time, it's also like something where I would love to start.
I love that idea because everyone has their own opinions and different things. And like ChatGPT isn't the answers, it's the information provided back to you. So if the information isn't correct, and it's not the answer, but it's what's available, and it gets thought process going.
It's a good primer.
Exactly.
It's a good primer to start with.
It's a draft. Yeah, I love it. And I'm hearing people use it for lots of different things, like summarize this event, summarize this document, start me with, a letter, or start me with an idea, or if you were to do that, it blows my mind, the creativity, and when you see different people start to look at it. I know a lot of friends that are coders, and they're like, oh yeah, I use it all day long.
Coders use a lot,
yeah. And it gets them 80% of the work done, and you have to still know how to code.
Sure.
It's,
absolutely.
type of thing.
Also for like legal works, or I don't rely completely on them, but at least I'm really not familiar with some of the legal terms, for example, or the IP regulatory parts. So
interesting.
Like even the business parts. So if I miss something, this is a new word for me. Like, what does it mean? Maybe it's common for like other business people, but for me, it's completely new.
So you're bouncing all ideas and questions off of it now.
Yeah. It's a good start for me, right? People Google it, so I'm using ChatGPT, and then I Google it.
We're turning it into a verb. I mean, you can Google it. I'm going to ChatGPT. We got to shorten that up.
Yeah. We need to work on that.
Yeah, we got to shorten that up. Well, listen, congratulations again. It's been a true pleasure to have you around and to learn from you, and we wish you all the best of luck.
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
Michael, congratulations on winning third place this year for the GS1 US Startup Lab Pitch Competition. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about Fulfilled?
Yeah, it's great, Reed. Thank you so much. And thank you to GS1. What a great event. What a great day. A lot of great startups. Fulfilled is a cloud-based warehouse management platform, and we create a digital twin in the warehouse that optimizes how a worker, either on foot or in a vehicle or with an AGV, how that worker routes through the warehouse. And so our mission is to create the citizen warehouse worker. Anybody should be able to come into a warehouse, pick up our device, and know what they need to do first, second, third, fourth, fifth throughout the day. And it's all powered by machine learning.
You mentioned that citizen warehouse worker in the first time, and then another time you mentioned it, and you're like, the same way that Uber created citizen taxi drivers. And that clicked with me significantly. I'm like, oh, I get it. And then you talked about, because a huge problem around the globe right now is getting people to work, and this fight of automation and humans and robots and all this stuff. And you seem to be putting it all together and leveraging with flexibility and scale for all of your clients, because they're all a little bit different.
They are a little bit different, right? You have warehouses, like we have one customer, it's windows and doors, and another customer, they are a vehicle manufacturer. And the next customer is dealing with protein, like chicken and pork and beef. And every customer is a little bit different. Every environment's a little bit different. So we had to make the platform adaptable, but still focused on the human being, the worker. It's a hybrid work environment for the foreseeable future. Humans good at certain human tasks and robots good at others. And we have to find a way to work together. But the name Fulfilled was not just about fulfillment, but making sure that citizen warehouse worker feels fulfilled at the end of the day. They're not aggravated or annoyed that they walked to the same bin 3 times in the last 10 minutes, right? How do we make this thing a little bit more intelligent and make that employee more productive?
That's fantastic. How did you hear about GS1 Startup Lab Pitch Competition?
Well, it all came through GS1 and just looking at standards, right? We came from the ERP ecosystem of Oracle, SAP, and Microsoft, and I was annoyed in those platforms in that, when I'm working in those platforms and I receive a label that I can't scan. And so I thought, all right, well, as part of the startup, one of our product requirements to build is I want to build in every GS1 barcode standard. And I want to make it so if a box shows up at the door, I can scan it no matter what, not just when IT programmed it to scan that thing.
Right.
I want any label to be scannable. And I want the customer to have the power to enroll new barcodes or create new 2D barcode formats on the fly without any IT involvement. And so I was researching standards, researching data link, GDSN, and then heard about, the pitch competition and supporting GS1s as a trade organization. And it was great.
Wow, that is fantastic. What are some of the biggest challenges that you run into? I mean, warehouse management software has been around for a really long time. Processes are pretty fundamental in what they're doing. But the way we're going about it is starting to change significantly. And then we have new IoT solutions and robotic solutions. But what's a big issue that you keep running into, regardless of the different environments?
You know, I think it's the loss of tribal knowledge is one big challenge that the customers are encountering. You know, my wife's grandfather, 35 years at Budweiser, he knew the Budweiser warehouse. He knew every product, every aisle, and every person in it. And we're not seeing that tenure in the warehouse. So when a resource leaves, you have a big resource turnover issue of that tribal knowledge is gone. And so we want to enable decision-making or assist decision-making with machine learning in our platform to make it easier for people to operate in the warehouse and make smart decisions. Have the software work with me, not against me, like I think a lot of people feel that WMS does.
We hear that a lot. And, you know, a lot of times we'll get solutions, and when they work, it's great. But when they don't work, it's the worst thing around. We all experience that. I'm really glad to hear that you were getting involved with GS1 standards, because we deal with a lot of direct-to-consumer members. And when they start out, they have to leverage an outsourced warehouse management solution, right? Somebody else's third-party warehouse, and they're taking up a little bit of space. And it's this, they don't know what they don't know. So they're told, hey, we need to put a barcode on your product so we can move it around our warehouse. And they say, great. But they don't realize it's a proprietary barcode just for that warehouse. So it can't go to other warehouses, and it can't go to retail when retail calls, because the D2Cs, retail always calls if you're successful. And then they have to relabel all their packages. Do you run into that?
We have come in some environments where it is a D2C brand that's growing. They've adopted UPCs and are starting to use UPCs, but they're not up to date with, you know, labeling standards for Target and Walmart and the big retailers and shipping to Europe and Canada and the labeling requirements there. And they do fall down, and it's very preventable. Those D2C brands can join an organization like GS1, learn about it, become informed, and avoid potential revenue loss, wasted revenue, wasted time with finding 3PL partners that are going to make you do this anyway. So you might as well do it from the start and not have to redo it later.
Yeah. And we find that folks that have experience with retail always do it from the start. And others look at them like, why are you spending that money? Why are you doing that? Why are you taking that time? And then they hit the stretch goal and they accelerate right on through it, don't miss a beat. And the others are like, oh, we got to start over and build from it. Well, listen, I want to congratulate you again on winning third place today. Congratulations. It was quite an effort. I mean, we had 7 finalists, and I will tell you, I was glad I was not a judge.
It was fantastic. All great startups, all different fields. It was truly apples, oranges, and plums. Like, there's a lot of different startups. I mean, the ISO trace and the isotopes blew my mind. The DNA tagging, biotag blew my mind. The reusable waddles blew my mind. Like, all the startups are great. So it was great to be in that class. One
thing we'd like to hear from you, because we always ask all of our guests, what's your favorite technology that you're using today, either personally or professionally?
You know, it's so funny. You know, a lot of people are using ChatGPT and Bard, right? Those LLMs. You know, I used a large language model, Bard, to write my argument for my property tax assessment. So I think all these large language models help me draft content. That's amazing. A medical release for your daughter at camp. Let's just let ChatGPT draft it for me, right? Saves so much time.
I did use ChatGPT the other week to write a letter, which saved me probably 2 days of thinking. But we just got a reassessment with our taxes. I'm like, this is a great, wow, mind blown.
Yeah, totally unrelated to the warehouse, but you will see this come into the warehouse. Large language models come in and allow warehouse workers to interact via voice rather than typing it on a keypad.
Sure.
So they'll be there, and we'll be proud to show it off next year at the GS1 Connect conference in Orlando.
Awesome. All right, Michael, well, thank you so much. Congratulations. Have a great day.
Thank you.
David, congratulations on winning second place in this year's 2023 Startup Lab Pitch Competition. How you feeling?
I mean, feeling pretty great.
I bet.
It was very exciting.
And it was very stressful. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. I mean, standing up on stage, 5 minutes to give a pitch, 7 contestants, Q&A at the end. Let's just tell the audience a little bit about, you know, Index Biosystems and what you all do.
Easiest way to think about what we do is we create an edible barcode out of a baker's yeast that could be applied to really any food or ingredient, provides complete supply chain traceability end-to-end and proof of ownership through complex supply chains.
Yeah, so when you say edible barcode, most people visualize, well, that's what I did. And then a lot of my friends are like, wait, why would you make it like a barcode? But really what you're doing is you're doing a DNA tag. It's a biotag. And then you're connecting that back to, you know, a system, of products.
Yeah, that's right. We use that phrase just because it's an easy way to conceptualize what we're doing, but you're absolutely right. It's a DNA-based identification system. It gives us the ability to connect the application of that biotag to any digital supply chain data and critical data.
Yeah. Now, I remember some numbers from your presentation. Was it $700 billion?
No, $7 billion, and this is in the U.S. Related to voluntary recalls.
$7 billion.
Yeah.
But there was a insurance aspect of this where it's like, we have lots of different parties that are involved here. Who's really responsible, but we can't determine the detection. And that's where you were coming in to help with that aspect.
Yeah. When we look at what our product offers and one of the primary values of it, it really, that traceability enables risk mitigation. So when you think about it in that context, fungible products that are aggregated, processed, and transformed through these complex supply chains, at the end of it, when there's a recall event, proof of ownership becomes impossible. So the idea of being able to track these ingredients through those complex supply chains and be able to provide definitive proof of ownership or prove that your product is uninvolved gives you the opportunity within the context of insurance to absolve yourself from a liability or remove yourself from a broad recall. And if you are involved, reduce the scope and time required to resolve.
Right. So when you have, let's just say, a lettuce recall, we don't have to recall all the lettuce. We're utilizing these trackers to say, this came from this farm, this came from that farm, this was harvested at this time, that was harvested at that time, those types of things.
Exactly, yeah. And the level of discretion we can achieve is, obviously pretty granular.
There was another part, you had this 1, 2, 3 slides in your deck, and it was a loaf of bread was on the third, flour was in the middle, and the grains were first. And being able to track it all the way through. I thought that was fantastic. And the controlling. Please talk a little bit about that.
So that was brought up within the context of a use case to demonstrate how a biotech can be used to validate sustainable claims about these fungible goods and products. So we've worked with a leading US milling company and demonstrated that at scale, we can apply biotags to wheat being harvested on farm. We can send that in an aggregated shipment to a miller that can be milled into flour. And then ultimately, if you wanted to, you could detect that in a final baked bread product. But as you said, there's a tunability to the durability of our product, meaning that if there's consumer sentiment or concerns about that, you can use it to validate your sustainability of your supply and not find it in that final baked product if that's what you choose.
My mind's blown. My mind's blown. We've gotten a gazillion questions about this, but one that keeps coming up all the time is, well, what about allergies? How do you deal with that? And is it FDA approved? And have you done testing? Those were two big ones that came up consistently.
Sure. So I'll answer the FDA question first. So the short answer is that there is no gene modification associated with our product. And as a result of that, we've achieved written authorization for both use in food with the US FDA and Health Canada, and both of them see us as substantially equivalent to baker's yeast. Now, when it comes to allergens and potential sensitivities to yeast allergies.
Yeah, and gluten.
Yeah, so you're applying our product really at a part per million, generally speaking. So the chances, or we've gotten sensitivity even lower than that. So it really depends on the use case, but it doesn't have to be. We haven't had a use case that's much higher than that. And all of that being said, again, this yeast is actually inactivated prior to any commercial application, so it's dead. So it's not going to propagate on the product or impact the product in any way. Right. On a piece of fruit, you're likely going to have a lot more live yeast than you ever would our tag.
Right. Interesting. And it seems like we're leaning back into Mother Nature to leverage what is already there and use it just in a better way. How did you hear about GS1 US's startup lab?
It was interesting. We engaged with GS1 quite some time ago because the idea of using our biotag and obviously integrating with GS1 standards has always been part of the strategy. So we engaged very early with GS1, but it wasn't until there was another conference that I was at, and Lucy from GS1 came around and introduced herself. I was like, okay, well, we need to have further conversations as she's sort of heading up the FISMA work and everything like that.
Oh, great. So just natural, organic networking. Pun intended there.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, listen, want to congratulate you again. Enjoy the moment. How are you going to use the funds to help the business?
Specifically earmarking the funds, it's going to help the business. We're going to use it and spend it for the business.
Got it. And before you go, we ask all of our guests, what's your favorite technology you're using today? Whether it be personal use or business use, just something that you're like, I can't live without this tech right now.
I get very nerded out and excited about technology that obviously are things that we can leverage in our own use. So like all these sort of nascent DNA detection technologies, ways that we can use it where we can detect multiple tags at once and things like all of those types of technologies I get obviously very excited about. Hopefully we'll all be using them every day and can't live without them soon.
Am I correct in saying like roughly 10 years ago, DNA sequencing was like a massive supercomputer? And nowadays we're looking at DNA sequencers that are like the size of a deck of cards.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're looking at. And yeah, the advances that have been made over a short period of time, we've arrived at this moment to make this kind of a solution possible. But you're right, like, a coffee cup size sequencer is available in market, and there's multiple players who are, out there selling them.
Wow. Well, fantastic. Congratulations again. And thanks for spending some time with us.
Thank you.
Manuela, congratulations on winning this year's 2023 Startup Lab Pitch Competition.
Thank you.
How did you find out about the pitch competition?
I think it came through a listserv newsletter for the Chicago tech community, and I'm so grateful that I discovered you guys, because you are unlocking a whole universe for Kadeya that I really believe is going to accelerate our business and our ability to integrate into the beverage industry as it is today.
I am so thrilled to hear you say that, because when we started the Pitch Lab competition 5 years ago, that was one of the reasons. We wanted startups to realize that there's this world of identification that's out there already that they may not know about, because coming from the startup world, you get very tunnel vision. You're very focused on your stuff. But we also wanted to show our larger members and enterprise clients that there's this other world out there of startup R&D that they can get involved with and different ideas. And so the two are coming together. I'm so glad to hear you say that from your side.
Yeah.
So as a Startup Lab winner, what's next for the company? I mean, how are we going to invest these winnings?
Yeah, so I'm flying home to Chicago, where we're headquartered, and we are gearing up for a huge pilot at Ecolab. And we are just hustling to make sure that we've got all the materials and resources in place so that we can do the most testing and maximize those opportunities to capture data. We need to do a lot of A/B testing to really understand on that individual consumer level, what are their preferences? And that really does come back to the data and understanding how consumers naturally prefer to consume their Kadeya bottle and beverages, and where is there wiggle room that we might be able to nudge them a little bit.
Awesome. Let's double back a little bit, because I jumped right into this. We just came out of the Startup Lab pitch competition. We announced the winners. We're handing out checks. It's a very exciting time. But for our audience, how did you get to where you are today? And just, a very high level, what you do.
Yeah, so quickly, Kadeya eliminates the need for single-use beverage containers. We're doing that by building a network of bottling plants that are the size of a vending machine. Like a vending machine, we vend you beverages conveniently. Users are accustomed to vending machines. We know those work.
Right.
Unlike a vending machine, you return the container. You can see here on the table in front of us our stainless steel bottle. And then our patent pending station, for the first time ever, washes, sanitizes, inspects, and refills the container. So that in and of itself is really exciting. You get a lot of cost savings, a lot of carbon savings. You get to support local economies and local water infrastructure. But what GS1, I think, is really helping us level up to do is around the data, because you interact with the station through a QR code or your work ID. Every bottle has a laser etched QR code on the bottom. And so we are linking bottle to user and station. And that data, though it is simple, it does not exist.
Yeah.
And we can attribute now to the individual their consumption patterns. And that allows us really to digitize hydration. Think step trackers for water.
Right. Yeah, it was interesting listening to your presentation today. When you visualize it very quickly, it's a vending machine. I go and I get a water bottle, but think of reusable water bottles, right? For those that can't see what we have, it's a glass or metal. Right now, I think what you have in production is all metal.
Yep, that's what we're moving to entirely, because we're in the industrial work site.
And so you're doing industrial work sites. So for people out there that aren't familiar with this, it's a huge construction site. And instead of cases and cases and cases of plastic, one-use water bottles that we all purchase, drink, throw away, now all the workers are going to these vending stations, and they can grab their bottle, use it for the day, take it home with them, come back, put it back in the machine, get another one. The machine starts cleaning that one, sanitizing it.
Yep.
And it's not just water.
Right.
You can do whatever it be, sports drinks or soda or carbonated drinks. And after a long, long day, even an alcoholic beverage.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I know you have to run, and I know you're running for a plane. And so we really appreciate you sticking around. What's your favorite piece of technology today, personally or professionally? It doesn't matter. This is something we always end our podcasts with, and it's just a way that we share information with everyone. And we've learned some really cool new things.
Yeah, so I'm a mother of a 2.5-year-old. And for the first year, maybe even year and a half of his life, Isaiah, we used a device called the Nanit. I don't know if you've heard of that. And I think what they've done is really fascinating, beautiful business model. So it's a overhead camera that you put on above the crib. And then when they're little, you swaddle them to sleep. So you use their swaddle.
Okay.
And of course, you buy a new swaddle as the baby grows. And then their camera can read the design on the swaddle and can sense the baby breathing. And so if the baby stops breathing, I have the Nanit app. I'll get a notification, with an alarm letting me know your baby is stopped breathing. Go run in there and figure out what's going on. So I think that's a really beautiful Internet of Things solution.
There's a lot of that. Yeah. Well, you're in the thick of it, and you're here, and you're running a company, and you have a 2-year-old. A lot of people don't know this, but when I got married, I quit my job 2 months before I got married. Took a month for a honeymoon, started my own company, had a child, moved, and hired 8 employees. So I know exactly what you're going through.
Yeah.
So I wish
Drinking from a fire hose and keep it coming.
Yeah. Thank you so much, and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining the Next Level Supply Chain with GS1 US. If you enjoyed today's show, you can subscribe to our feed or explore more great episodes wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to share and follow us on social media. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.